What's up and welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be looking at another Stephen King book. Now today's book is going to be Different Seasons. Now this is a compilation of novellas. There's 4 books in the stories. I was a bit torn whether or not to just do the whole book as a review or whether to do them individually, and I decided to do them individually because they are quite distinctive stories, which some of them do have quite a bit of length to as well. So yeah, this is sort of like based on 4 separate seasons. The seasons don't actually play too much into it, but each story has its own season basically. So the first one we're going to look at today is going to be Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. Now, starting the book off with the Shawshank Redemption, I mean, obviously when this book came out it was an original story, but everyone knows about the movie The Shawshank Redemption. It's highly regarded as one of like the best films ever, and a lot of Stephen King's books end up being in acclaimed movies. And yeah, Shawshank Redemption movie is great, and what makes it so good is that it's hardly any different from the book. It's a great adaptation of this story. So if you don't know what it's about a banker named Andy Dufresne, and he ends up being locked up in Shawshank Redemption for murder basically. And the story is actually told through a different character's perspective, a character called Red. Now in the movie this is the character played by Morgan Freeman. Now in the story here, the nationality and ethnicity of the character is different. So it's really hard for me to kind of picture this character Red having not look like Morgan Freeman and the voice of Morgan Freeman, which is even more like iconic. So it was really hard for me to separate the two, but it doesn't really make much difference towards the character really. So Red is the character he's the guy who can get you anything you want in jail. He's the guy you go to and he will try and find some way to smuggle something in for you. I don't think he likes to give out dangerous things like knives, but if you need like a poster or a picture or some cigarettes and stuff like that, he can get it for you. But what's really interesting about the story is the way that it's told through someone else's perspective whilst focusing on Andy Dufresne's character and the trials and tribulations of him being in the Shawshank prison. The character of Red and Andy are both great. I know some of the other characters are great too, but Andy Dufresne is a very complex, very interesting character because we don't really know his motivations. We don't really know if he's telling the truth or whether the reason he's in jail is actually of his own doing or if he's been framed for this. And we're given the story piece by piece throughout Red's sort of diary that he's been writing over the years in Shawshank, talking about the situations and the things that's happened with Andy and the stories of Andy and also with himself, of course. What's interesting is the fact that this is Red's perception of Andy. So as correct as he could be about the way he's thinking, he could never truly understand what Andy is thinking or doing, but he does a really great job of trying to understand it from someone else's perspective. There's not much I can say about this which no one has already understood or saw from the movie, because a lot of the content in this book is in the movie. Obviously we've seen the movie, I sort of know the ending of the story, but it's still just as interesting to read the journey towards this big sort of climax, I guess. The book deals with a lot of different issues within the society and whether the people in the jail are just as equally as bad as the people running the country and the place, because you get to see different sides of the law and how things work. And Andy is a banker, used to be a banker, and a lot of the people in the prison know his intelligence and try to use it for their own benefit. I mean, you get to see the seedy side of maybe like the warden and the police officers and about how they're trying to get out of their scrambles themselves by using Andy's skill. Some of the parts that I thought were really interesting in the book was Andy's sort of his determination to get out of there and to make things right, and when he goes through some sort of turmoils in the book, it was quite emotional to see how he'd been keeping his spirits for so long, so high in this, and when he reaches a certain point he just goes on kind of like a sort of a breakdown for a bit, and it's really interesting stuff. It's really like sort of emotional to see someone keeping their spirits so high for so long and then being just like shattered, their dreams shattered. There are a couple of noticeable differences from the story here to the movie, and I think what the movie's done has actually made them a little bit more satisfying for the audience. I'm not going to say exactly what they are, but one of them is to do with a death or a certain character, and the other one, in fact, they're both to do with a demise of a certain character. One is in a way that you feel sad for in the movie, and one you feel pretty happy for in the movie. So these changes I do feel were pretty pretty necessary, pretty good to the story, but at the end of the day it doesn't leave it open for those things not to have happened in the book, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Whichever form of media have you seen The Shawshank, they are both relatively close. It's a great story and it's a great way to just see the way life is in prison, especially back in the 40s. I believe it takes place between the 40s and the 70s, so there's a lot of change as things go on as well. So seeing that from the inside out, which is another good part about the story, is the way that the prisoners have to kind of react to the changes, because you don't know what's going on in the outside world. And if some of them actually do get out into the outside world, it's how they have to cope with being in prison for a long time, and how they've had to adapt to the life outside, and how it may be more like a prison outside than inside. Like I said, The Shawshank is just a great story, and if you've not read it, I would go ahead and pick up different seasons, just for the fact that there's 3 other stories that you might not have already read. So this is going to be my review for Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. Hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. The next story I believe in this book that I'm going to be reviewing is Apt Pupil, which is a story I had no idea what it was about. So look forward to seeing that soon, and yeah, if you are not a subscriber already, go ahead and hit that button and you will be notified whenever the next one goes live. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.